Hi guys, it's Mr. Russo. I'm going to read a book called My Name is Georgia about an artist named Georgia O'Keeffe in honor of Women's History Month. My name is Georgia. Georgia O'Keeffe was born on a farm in Wisconsin in 1887. When I was 12 years old, I knew what I wanted: to be an artist. I've always known what I wanted. When I was small, I played alone for hours and hours. I was satisfied to be all by myself. I was kind of like that when I was young. I would play in the woods and look for bugs and find things. I did things other people don't do. When my sisters wore sashes, I didn't. Sashes are like those little belts there. When my sisters wore stockings, I wore none. Those are socks. When my sisters wore braids, I let my black hair fly. Oops. I rode to town every Saturday to copy pictures from the stack in the art teacher's cupboard. At home, I looked out my window and drew pictures of what I saw. Maybe I could make something beautiful. At school in Chicago, I drew statues in the museum. At school in New York, I painted one still life painting a day, every day. At school, I painted my teacher's ideas. Still lifes are paintings of like when you put fruits in a bowl and just paint something that's just sitting right in front of you. But when school days were over, I went out into the wide world to discover my own ideas. I went to the Texas plains, the Wild West of my childhood books. You have never seen sky. It is wonderful. Apparently in Texas all you see is sky because there's not many mountains. I walked into the sunset. I think she means towards the sunset, because if you walk into the sunset, you know what would happen, right? You know. I felt the wind across the plains. And I wanted the sunset in the sky and the wonderful loneliness. Oh, I painted the sunset in the sky and the wonderful loneliness and emptiness of the place. I painted day and night. I worked till my head all felt light in the top. I have things in my head that are not like what anyone has taught me, shapes and ideas. But I bundled up my paintings and went to New York City to be where other artists live. I also went to New York City to be where other artists live, but I'm not an artist anymore. I walked down in the canyons of steel, should say and concrete. I lived high up in the clouds and painted what I saw from my window. But sometimes what I saw from my window was the far away calling me. In other words, she was there in New York, but she wanted to be somewhere else, right? I painted a garden in the city. I wanted everyone to see flowers the way I saw them. I looked closely at the flowers. The flower that's right there is a calla lily. I have a bunch of them in my backyard. Sometimes I pick them when nobody's looking and put them in vases. I painted a camellia. I painted it big so people would notice. I painted a jack in the pulpit. I painted it big so people would see. Look how big that painting is, and that's one flower. Her palette that she's painting with, I thought it was a ladybug at first. I was like, well, that's a weird ladybug. I painted poppies and petunias and sunflowers and jimson weeds. I don't know what that is. And irises and apple blossoms. My garden bloomed until everyone saw the flowers the way I saw them. But still, I look to the sky. The distance has always been calling me. I went to the New Mexico desert, so far away that no one ever comes. I was satisfied to be all by myself. Remember when she was a little girl, she liked to be alone and do things by herself? It was too dry for the flowers to grow, but there were bones. Bones are fascinating. I gathered the bones, big bones, little bones, short bones, long bones, a cow's skull, a horse's skull, a ram's skull, and brought the bones home to paint. One day I held up one against the sky. I held one up against the sky and saw the blue through that hole. I painted what I saw. I saw the sky and the red hills. I walked in the hills at daybreak and twilight, at noon and in starlight. I painted the arms of two red hills reaching out to the sky and holding it. I painted the Pedernal Mountain in the far away. I painted it over and over and over again. And then again and again. So you like that mountain, I guess. God told me if I painted that mountain enough, he'd give it to me. What? I drove my Model A across the desert and back, and up and down over the hills. A Model A is one of the original cars. A Model T is another one. They were made by Ford, and Ford invented the assembly line, so he can build the cars faster. Before that, they had to build cars one at a time. After he designed the assembly line, you could build many cars at once. I painted in my studio on wheels until the afternoon bees chased me home. Look at the bees. You don't want to get stung by that. Even in winter, I went far out into the faraway and painted in the bitter cold. She doesn't look dressed enough to be painting in the cold. Even a fire doesn't seem to be enough to warm her. I painted when the wind was so strong it nearly blew me away. She looks a little bit like the Wicked Witch of the West from Wizard of Oz right there. Oops. Sorry, I'm holding my phone in one hand. And I did things other people don't do. I climbed my ladder to the night sky to wait for the sun. I slept under the stars to see the morning sky when I woke. I stayed in the desert. My hair turned from black to gray to white as the bones. I still walked the red hills. My pile of bones grew. My flowers bloomed in the desert. And the Pedernal was mine. Oh, I guess she got her mountain after all. I wouldn't mind having a mountain. And the sky, oh, it was still wonderful. I painted the sky one more time. I painted my sky big so people would see the sky the way I did. I worked from dawn to dusk every day for weeks and months. Look at her, how different she looks with her white hair. There she looks a little bit like George Washington. Then, as I painted the last cloud, the sun slipped behind the Pedernal. I laid my brushes down. Kiss the sky for me. Georgia O'Keeffe lived to be 98 years old. In museums all across the land, people see her flowers, deserts, hills, cities, and skies the way she did. There you go. So what did you think about Georgia O'Keeffe? I really love her paintings, and I have a few more books I'm going to read by her. Maybe I'll do them a little differently than turning the pages with my iPhone, but I hope you enjoyed hearing this story. Talk to you soon.